Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Some films age by becoming clearer, others age by becoming braver. Cloud Atlas belongs to the second category. Watching it today, especially in its 4K Shout Factory presentation, it feels less like a curiosity from 2012 and more like a film that arrived too early, speaking a language audiences were not yet prepared to fully hear. Directed by Lana and Lily Wachowski alongside with Tom Tykwer, Cloud Atlas is not a film you simply watch. It is a film you enter. Structured across six interwoven stories spanning centuries, from the 19th century to a distant post-apocalyptic future, it asks a question that cinema rarely dares to ask so sincerely. Do our lives matter beyond the moment we live them, or if they do, how do our choices echo across time? The film's ambition is immediately apparent. It refuses linear storytelling, instead cutting rhythmically between eras, genres, and tones. A 19th century lawyer grappling with slavery, a 1930s composer fighting exploitation, a 1970s journalist uncovering corporate murder, a present-day publisher trapped in an absurdist nightmare, a genetically engineered server awakening to free will, and a tribal storyteller in a broken future trying to preserve truth. Now each narrative stands alone, yet none are complete without the others. At the center of Cloud Atlas is the idea that human behavior, both cruelty and compassion, is cyclical. History does not simply repeat, it rhymes. Operation mutates, resistance adapts, love reappears in different forms. The film's structure mirrors this philosophy. By cutting across moments of hope and despair across centuries, it argues that no action exists in isolation. Now, the ensemble cast, such as Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Jim Broadbent, Hugo Weaving, Duna Bay, and Ben Whishaw, and others, takes on multiple roles across timelines. This creative choice was controversial at release, but with distance, it becomes one of the film's most meaningful gestures. Now, these are not just reincarnations in a literal sense, these are actually echoes, patterns of the soul. Now, the same fears, ambitions, and moral crossroads replace through the different bodies and eras. Tom Hanks, in particular, charts a fascinating moral arc across his characters, from a moral cowardice to ethical courage. His journey is not about redemption in a traditional sense, but an evolution. Halle Berry's characters often serves as witness, truth seekers who bridge knowledge across eras. Hugo Weaving, meanwhile, embodies systematic cruelty itself, recurring as enforcers of order, punishment, and control. Donna Bay's Sonmi 451 remains the film's most emotionally resonant figure. Her storyline, set in a futuristic corporate dystopia, channels Blade Runner and 1984, yet it avoids limitations by grounding its rebellion in spiritual awakening rather than violence. Sonmi's realization that freedom begins with awareness becomes the philosophical spine of the entire film. Her recorded testimony is treated like scripture in the far future, reinforcing the film's belief that ideas outlive bodies. Now, what makes Cloud Atlas challenging and rewarding is that it does not simplify its message. It does not pretend that kindness always wins or that sacrifice is always rewarded. Some characters fail, some stories end abruptly, some victories are small, personal, and invisible to history. Yet the film insists these moments still matter. A single act of defiance may not change the world, but it may inspire someone else to try again. The music, composed by Tykwer alongside Johnny Klimek and Reinhold Heil, deserves special mention. Rather than assigning each timeline in a separate identity, the score evolves like a shared heartbeat, morphing themes across eras. The Cloud Atlas sextet is not just musical motif, it is the film's emotional glue, reinforcing the idea that stories like melodies transform without disappearing. Visually, the 4K Shout Factory release allows the film's scale to breathe properly. The clarity enhances the contrast between eras, the warmth of the candlelit interiors, the cold sterility of corporate futures, the harsh beauty of post-collapse landscapes. Now, this is not a film that relies on spectacle for its own sake, but the visuals serve emotion, not the other way around. Critically, Cloud Atlas was divisive upon release, often dismissed as over-ambitious or self-important, but ambition is not a flaw, it is actually a risk. And Cloud Atlas risks sincerity in an era that often rewards irony. It speaks earnestly about interconnectedness, moral responsibility, and the human capacity to choose differently. Now, that sincerity is exactly what makes the film endure. What resonates most today is how Cloud Atlas reframes legacy. It argues that we do not pass down power, we pass down choices. Each generation inherits not just resources or trauma, but unfinished moral work. Now, the film's famous line, "What is an ocean but a multitude of drops?" It is not inspirational fluff, it is a quiet challenge. You may be small, but you are not meaningless. In the context of modern cinema, where franchises dominate, the risk is minimalized. Cloud Atlas feels almost radical. It is messy, imperfect, emotionally vulnerable, and intellectually demanding. It trusts its audience, it asks them to connect the dots rather than wait for explanations. Watching it now, Cloud Atlas feels less like a film about time travel and more like a film about moral inheritance. It suggests that history bends not through heroes alone, but through ordinary people choosing courage in moments no one else may really witness. The 4K presentation does not make Cloud Atlas easier, it makes it clearer. Clearer in its intent, clearer in compassion, clearer in its belief that storytelling itself is in fact the resistance against forgetting. Cloud Atlas is not a perfect film, but it is a necessary one, and sometimes necessity matters more than perfection. Now, this movie is a must watch.